Human Services Committee meeting. The date is Monday, December 5th, 2022. We do have a quorum, so I will declare the meeting
Recording
to
in
order.
progress.
And starting off with approval of minutes of the regular meeting from November 7th, if we can have a motion and a
approval.
second.
So
please.
moved.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes from November 7th, 2022, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next up, we have public comment, starting off with Suzanne Ali. All right.
Hi, can you hear me all right? Yes. Perfect. So my name is Susanna. I'm one of the owners of Dave's Down to Earth Rock Shop over on 711 Main Street. We've been in Evanston for 52 years. And I know that you've discussed the used bag fee before for the 15 cents per bag that we have to pass out to the customer or pass along to the customers. But I wanted to talk about how you think that's going to even work. Like, how do I count my bags is one thing. Another thing is, I might as well just send you a check each month because I'm not going to forward that fee to my customers. My customers are already complaining about the fact that they can't afford to come to Evanston to shop based on the fact that the parking fees are so high. They would rather go to Wilmette or go to Skokie where there's no parking fees. We can't nickel and dime our customers to death. You know, that you're going to end up losing even more businesses in the city of Evanston. If you go to downtown Evanston, you'll see that you have a lot of vacant storefronts. People are not coming back. I have customers who come from all over the Midwest. I go out and I pay for their parking. If they are in the store for 2 hours and they run out of parking, I run out with my credit card because I don't want them to leave before they pay for their purchases and they just put them back. So the fact that we're going to charge for paper bags, that's recyclables, is actually kind of ridiculous. We don't use plastic bags because that goes against my belief. When we do packaging and we send out packages, because we also have an online business, we use compostable peanuts because they won't hurt the environment. So we do everything we can to try to save the environment. That's what we are about. I mean, we sell rocks and fossils for Pete's sake, so I want to take care of the environment. So I just think that's a really bad idea. I think you're going to lose more businesses, and you're also not going to have retail businesses come into Evanston because they're going to look at all of that. And I'll tell you, we moved our store about, I think it's like 8 years ago now, to the other side of the street. But next time we go to move, I'll seriously consider other suburbs just based on the fact of just this proposal. It's not the only thing, but the parking fees. When we took over the business, it was 50 cents an hour. You put 2 quarters in the meter. It was easy. Now it's almost impossible to use the new machines. I know that's not what you guys are talking about tonight, but everything accumulating upon, on top of each other just kind of makes you reconsider as a business owner, is this the right place to be? So that's my words for tonight. I hope that you don't pass the 15-cent tax, and thank you for
I'm just going to use my privilege as a chair because this is a kind of important part of this. How do you feel about the ban, the eventual ban on single-use plastic bags?
Well, I don't personally have plastic bags. I don't mind that there's a ban. When I go to the grocery store, I have my own bags. So, I bring my bags. I'm born in Europe. I'm used to it, so I don't use plastic bags. We
Okay.
don't use plastic bags at our store.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, Peter O'Malley.
Hi, folks. My name is Peter O'Malley. I'm here as the president of the Central Street Business Association, and I want to read for you guys a letter that we wrote and was approved by the board back in late August of last year, and we sent the letter to the city at that time. At that time, we were thinking about, or we heard a bag tax was 10 cents a bag. Now what we're hearing is that has been increased by 50%. So our opposition to this ordinance has grown significantly. But I just want to read the letter, make sure it get it into record. In response to the City of Evanston proposed bag tax ordinance, the Central Street Evanston Board of Directors is submitting the following statement regarding the collective feedback from our Central Street businesses. Though our board generally supports a greener community, we firmly believe that the proposed bag tax ordinance is punitive to all small businesses in the city of Evanston. Most Evanston businesses are already environmentally conscious, and many of them have been recognized as sustained Evanston businesses, including Central Street Business, Backlot Coffee, Electronic Processing in North America LLC, Mamaya Papaya and Tony Macaroni, Notice, and Walsh National Health. Here are some reasons why we think the bag tax, why we oppose the bag tax ordinance. Number one, there will be an extra toll on businesses in order to collect and pay the bag tax. Changes to our point of sale systems, employee training, managing payments to the city, bookkeeping, and more. Number two, Evanston and Central Street in particular is already in competition with nearby shopping districts, mainly Wilmette and Old Orchard. Adding a bag tax to the existing parking challenges will augment our already negative reputation for not being shopper-friendly. In boutiques and gift stores, a bag is often used as gift wrapping, not simply a carrier. So by taxing a bag, the city is also taxing gift wrapping, which is an important service that small businesses provide to help differentiate them from big box stores and online retailers. Fourth, we feel this ordinance is discriminatory to brick and mortar businesses, as online purchasers delivered to Evanston, which typically require a lot more packaging, are not subject to this tax. Please contemplate the following propositions. Number one, consider this tax for larger retailers only, supermarkets, big box stores, etc. Number two, a measure to incentivize people to bring in their own bags instead of punish them for not to do it. Consider excluding bag tax from the ordinance. Number four, excluding compostable bags from the ordinance. And five, include an in-depth examination of this proposed tax into the Evanston Thrives Retail District Action Plan, deferring voting until this study is concluded. Sincerely, Central Street Board of Directors. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The list that you just mentioned, could you go over those bullet points one more time, the last bullet points you went
It's
over?
been
Yeah,
emailed to us.
Did he hand it out to us?
proposition.
It's been emailed to us.
Sure. Number one was consider this tax for larger retailers only, the big box stores. Number two, consider a measure to incentivize people to bring in their own bags instead of punishing them for not for doing it. Number three, consider excluding gift bags from the ordinance. Number four, consider excluding compostable or composting bags from the ordinance. And number five, include an in-depth examination of the proposed tax into the Evanston Thrives Retail District Action Plan, deferring voting until the study is completed.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Next up, John Cleve.
Well, thanks for having me. I think all of you have spoken with me either one-on-one or at the last Human Services Committee meeting that I was at a couple months ago. But at any rate, this won't be long. Basically, I'm here to talk about the packet that you had prepared for these guys that you want to have read into the record about the Marguerite Inn and 1566 Oak. And I just want to be on the record to say I still remain convinced that the license agreement with the operating agreement ought to be strong. And that was something that if you remember, I'd handed out a copy of the items that I'd looked at the original draft, and I stand by that to say we really need to have strong expectations set about what we expect to see it with objective enforceable standards on it. I don't think any of this goes against the connections and what they're trying to do. In fact, Betty and I had an hour conversation a month ago, and I was very clear about that this is something that we're looking for, is to have a very strong, clear statement as to what we expect to see them doing, and there was no disagreement. I mean, she plans to have the staffing we've talked about the, for the screening processes involved. We talked about the safe environment for the internal residents so that they don't live in fear of the person that's down the hallway and whatnot. Clear eviction policies that are laid out and so forth. My big worry is that going from the draft that I saw that you guys have rescinded and redone, and then what comes out in January and February for the council, I just don't want to see that watered down, because I don't think that there's any clear opposition to it. And I think that we have to think about what happens if everything doesn't go great. What happens if funding's cut back? What happens if there are issues? Hopefully it never happens, and it's a beautiful space. But the city needs to have some means to make sure that the thing is, that it results in neighborhood stability and what's best for the residents. So that's my statement to all of you.
All right, thanks, John. Next up, we have Ellen, is this King? Did I miss somebody? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed somebody. Simone, I'm sorry, we're gonna go with Simone Ottinger. Ottinger?
Hi. My name is Simone Ottinger. I own Maya Papaya and Tony Macaroni. It's a kid's store on Central Street. And as I said, I bought some props because I prepared a little speech, but I'm glad I came and I had a chance to meet Brian and initiate a dialogue. Maybe, if we explain better what our issues are, we can, meet at the middle and come to a mutually, solution that works for everybody. These are not shopping bags that I give to my customers. These are plastic bags that my merchandise come in. So I unpack merchandise. Usually I fill a big bag like that or 2 a week, and I personally take this to Jewel because it's the only place that I know of that takes plastic bags to be recycled. So I do that. These are, as I said, packaging that I personally take to Jewel. This is a shipping box from Amazon. I mean, you can see hundreds of those in alleys everywhere in Evanston from everybody that orders online. And this is a paper bag that, sorry, it's a little mangled, but it's what I use to gift wrap. It's made of recycling paper. And I have another bag here from a neighbor of mine, Notice on Central Street. They also use this bag as gift wrapping. And my point is that, I'm going to read what I prepared. The bag tax ordinance, as currently draft, imposes additional costs and disadvantages for small businesses. First, the number of bags handed out by Evanston small businesses is negligible compared to that of supermarkets and big boxes. Second, true or not, Evanston does have a reputation for being business unfriendly. There are perceived notions of expensive parking and predatory enforcement. This proposed tax will reinforce our negative reputation and send both customers and potential new businesses to others, easier to work neighboring communities, as well as sending shoppers online. Online shopping leaves a much bigger footprint on the environment with the excessive packaging material, not to mention the transportation issues. The current draft of this ordinance does not address online purchasing. Typically, gift stores and boutiques utilize paper bags as gift wrapping, as opposed to a mere merchandise carrier. That is part of the service that small businesses offer to customers, and that helps them differentiate from chain stores and online merchants. Taxing bags would effectively translate into taxing gift wrapping, taking away one of the few devices that small businesses still have to their advantage. Small businesses already hurting by 2 years of COVID will have additional expenses to reprogram point-of-sale systems, websites, train employees, and deal with accounting issues. The City of Evanston Environmental Board has shared extensive research on the environmental impact of the use of both plastics and compostable bags, as well as shown us studies of how the use of bags has decreased other communities which adopted a bag tax. What I did not see was research on the impact those ordinances had on the independent businesses inside communities, and consequently to the overall economic development of those areas. Furthermore, in the meantime, The city is paying thousands of dollars to consultants on the Evanston Thrive project to revitalize downtown and other business districts in Evanston. Rethinking the bag tax seems to be a low-hanging fruit in helping our business districts, and I urge you to consider it. Thank you.
Point of privilege. Just so you know, the Levy Center also takes those bags. We have a place at the Levy Center that'll take those plastic bags.
Great.
And Simone, same question, if you wouldn't mind. Just what's your position on the eventual ban?
I think that if you ban plastic, they're just going to use more paper. Just look what happened to Whole Foods.
Okay, thank you.
They use paper and they double the paper.
Thank you. Next up, Ellen King.
Hi. First off, I really want to thank all of you because I know how much work it is to be on the council, and it really is a thankless job. So, and then you have all these committees that you're on. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate all of your work. I pretty much echo what everybody else said about bags. For us, it really is an issue of just administrative. I mean, environmentally, if I thought it would make a really big dent, I would be all in support. I mean, that is such a part of our business. We pay extra $300 a month to compost any waste that we have. We pay extra for recycling. Our garbage is the cheapest thing we have. So we go above and beyond. We work with local farmers for all of our produce, and we try and be a very sustainable business. And that's why we don't ever use plastic and never have used plastic. And even regarding drinks that we have, we use aluminum, we use glass, because we're not in support of plastic. Now, the paper bags that we have, they're paper, they're made from recyclable materials, and then we can compost them, and we encourage our customers as well. So I think that the idea that Evanston is wanting to promote environmental sustainability, 100%. I served on the Environment Board back in 2010 and was head of the Backyard Chicken Committee, so like helped push that forward. So this isn't about not being environmentally friendly. When Carl was in charge, sadly, yeah, we worked closely together. But it really is a burden on a small business. It would be me that has to stay late instead of, I work early normally because I do the baking, but I'd have to stay late and try and figure out how to administer this tax, send it in, and all of that. So in support of environmental initiatives that help the community, but this is not one of them. So if you polled me, I would say yes to plastic bag tax 100%, or ban 100%, but paper, please don't tax that. It really is something that our customers need, and we kind of depend on. One other thing, I know that you're also looking at the making it against ordinance to accept cash. We are one of the businesses that do have only credit card that we started after the pandemic, and it's something we have kept, and it's because several things. First off, we're short-staffed like everybody. It's faster people getting through the line. If someone comes with cash, we accommodate and try and help, and then tell them that it's not something that we take cash because it takes longer. Sometimes banks don't have the change for us. There's a worry that we did have on Dempster where we had several occasions of getting counterfeit bills, and then the bank won't take it and we're out. And that, happened 3 times to us and other businesses on Main and Dempster. And then also just the worry about being robbed. We don't ever worry about getting robbed. And that is a huge concern. So when you're thinking about it, please consider the effect that has on businesses, because I don't think that's a big issue, but those are the reasons why we have not allowed cash after the pandemic. Thank you again for all your time.
Thank you for your feedback. Next up, we have Diana Dirks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Durkes, and I live in Evanston for a long time. I'm in the 4th Ward. I'm one of the people in the neighborhood who has studied and brainstormed on how to make the Margarita Inn work as a homeless shelter in our neighborhood. I spoke out at the Land Use Committee meeting last Wednesday, and I said something pretty unpopular. I relayed a report that I had heard that resident employees at the shelter are dealing drugs to other residents. Since I said that, 2 more shelter insiders with knowledge of what goes on there have confirmed that yes, this is indeed going on. And I'm appalled. First of all, we have drug deals going down in our neighborhood. Anybody who lives near us at the corner of Oak and Grove has seen them. We hadn't seen those before Connections for the Homeless started operating the shelter. Now, my source also tells me that it's an open secret to management and to staff. So my point in telling you this is, what are we going to do about it? You can't unhear this allegation, but therefore it needs to be investigated. I believe in asking questions. I believe that people should be asked questions and that you should get answers from them, and they should be black and white. Not conflating PR messages with truth, with religion, and sentiment about, well, if you speak out about any kind of operation there, you're racist or anti-homeless. So my call to action to you and to the city is that we don't take at face value the materials that have been presented, but that we do investigate. I know staff is short. I'm here to volunteer my time if I can be of use to you, but we can't just look the other way if we doubt some of the facts that are coming out. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Karen Graham. Is that the written statement? You said written statement, right? Okay. And so Karen provided a written statement regarding No, it's good. I'll call on the next person, and then Eric Passett. Pass it. It's plastic bag.
So, my name is Eric Passon. I'm a citizen of Fourth Ward. And, you know, for years, I never really came to these city council meetings or any of these committee meetings. And lately, I've been kind of infuriated by these endless proposals that you know, if you read Evanston Now and the Evanston Roundtable, people, as you know, make comments afterwards. I can't say any of them are positive about what people are doing. It's just, I'm a small businessman. I've been one for 35 years. I've lived in Evanston for 35 years. Always been happy about living in Evanston. I can't say I have anything good to say lately about it. I mean, there's another proposal about small bag tax. What do you do about the small empanada store on Davis? I mean, come on. I mean, we're trying to rebuild Evanston, and all I feel like the council's doing is the exact opposite of that. I mean, we have 15% of downtown Evanston empty, and how many of them are geared towards restaurants? I mean, not only, forget about the expense. The expense is kind of minor. It's the needless, you know, counting bags every day. How many do I, you know, plastic bags. And what most people said is that they're just going to go somewhere else. I mean, I go to downtown Wilmette, people commented about it. They don't charge for parking. So you go there and you have a nice, casual, relaxing dinner. You don't worry about getting a parking ticket. You shop somewhere else. You get other things, and then you come home and I mean, we do everything we can to recycle at our house. I never knew that the Levy Center accepted plastic bags. I think we should incentivize people, like send out, you know, things in the Evanston Now. How do you recycle? You know how many in downtown Evanston, how many non-recycle, you know, all the garbage cans are overflowing from like Sweet Greens, and there's not enough recycling bins next to it. I mean, why don't we try to do something positive instead of enforcing something negative that get people mad about it? I mean, it's just, you said it's not to tax people. I get it. However, people are getting mad about it. I mean, I'd rather go shop somewhere else. That's what, I mean, and then you take your car, carbon footprint, and it's just completely doesn't serve a point. You know, I hate to put it so boldly, but that's, I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I mean, I have nothing to gain by this happening or losing, but I feel bad for the small businesses that get affected by it. That's what I do for a living, you know? I mean, I just think we should move on to something more important. There's a lot more things than this. So thank you.
Thank you. And then Karen Graham was the last person with a written statement, and Karen does not support the tax on paper, compostable, or post-consumer recyclable bags. Okay, that concludes public comment. Thank you all who came out to share. your position on the issues. I am going to move up HS1 under items for communication. So if I can get a motion on that, just so we can, I don't even know.
I'll move item HS1, update on Margarita Inn application for special use, rooming house license, and operating agreement.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Again, this is HS1, items for communication. And if we can start with either Director Ogbo or Council Cummings providing an update on this. And my understanding is that it's going to appear in a different section of the code, so it'll go through the Planning and Development Committee and not Human Services Committee. But can you provide a bit more explanation for those online and in person? Or Director Ogbo's fine. Cool.
Good day, members of the Human Services Committee. A decision was made during the Land Use Commission meeting regarding the rooming house that Margarita Inn should fall under. I know that this item has been brought to Human Services a number of times, I believe twice already. What decision has been made is that this will fall under Title 5 instead of Title 8. Title 8 is a Health and Human Services title. It will now go under the rooming house title because that's where Margarita Inn or any setting of such should fall under. So we brought it up today to list it as an item of communication so that we will provide an update to our community members that it will not return to Human Services, but it will rather go to another committee going forward.
Thank you. So I presume this will be at the next Planning and Development Committee meeting, which I don't know if we know exactly when that will be, but
I'm not sure if it'll be on December 12th, but for sure January 9th.
Director
I think
Flax is
with the
shaking her head
idea-
no, it won't be.
I think with the idea of it being passed at the second meeting in January is my understanding.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions or comments from the body on this? Are we good? Okay. Do we need to vote on, we don't need to vote on items of communication. Okay, so that's all. Moving on back up to HS, Councilman Reed.
Yeah, I'll move item HS1, ordinance 114-022, amending the city code and creating section 3-2-22 retail single-use bag tax.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, HS1 has been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Reed.
Yes, I truly appreciate all the folks who came out and in good faith, gave comments on their positions around this and how folks feel it may impact their small businesses. And, I particularly am sensitive to small businesses compared to larger corporations. I will just start off with saying Evanston now is not the greatest place to get balanced information, and I would recommend supplementing your resources for understanding what's going on in the city. So the reason we're here with this bag tax and eventual ban is because I think, as most folks in the audience have said and agree, plastic bags have an impact on our environment, on our community. And it's not just an environmental issue, and I think everyone here understands the environmental issue, so I don't think I need to go into that. But it's also about keeping our community cleaner. How many times have you walked around neighborhoods and seen plastic bags strewn across the street or blowing in the wind? Think about how that makes our community a less inviting place for people to come shop and enjoy. Think about how it disrupts our waterways, how plastic bags get into our recycling system and taint the recycling stream, making our recycling less efficient. I hear that folks are, it seems like there's more consensus around the ban than there is around the tax. And I'll say, I wish a ban alone worked. But the research shows that plastic bag bans alone typically do not achieve the required outcome, and when paired with the tax, has a much larger impact. We saw, I'm quoting from Hamanoff 2021, a study out of Chicago with their bag tax, 40% reduction in Chicago with their bag tax. Uruguay, who did a bag tax and ban, 75% reduction. And that's a Cabrera 2020 study. So folks can actually go cite these, go look at these studies. So a tax has a huge impact on incentivizing people to move away, and it'll help prepare folks for the eventual ban in 2024. The tax, in economics, there's the term externalities, which means when consumers engage in behavior and they don't see the direct consequences of their behavior, right? When you buy a plastic bag, you don't imagine that it's going to end up in the wrong place in the waste stream, blowing across the street, or just sitting in your, someone has this huge collection. I think a lot of folks, got that drawer with a bunch of plastic bags in, so just sitting in a drawer. So, again, 40% reduction in Chicago, 75% in Uruguay. This holds true across the board that the tax is effective, especially when combined with the bag. We had someone bring up a huge bag full of plastic bags. I don't know how much that bag weighs, but what we do know is that for every pound, which is about 80 bags, for every pound of plastic bag waste, it cost municipalities an upwards of $6.50 to deal with that. Again, we're going to have to pay for this one way or another. And we have huge unfunded liabilities here. And I think we all have to be clear about making sure that we have a city that can take care of the basics, which is making sure that the streets are clean, making sure that we have streets that are paved. Because, I hear a lot of folks, conflating this with parking costs. We have a $100 million unfunded infrastructure liability. We have to charge for parking. We have to make sure that we don't have crumbling roads and crumbling bridges, because that, if you want to talk about making a community uninviting, that will make a community uninviting. And I forgot your name, but from Hune, from the bakery, I want to let you know that your bags that you're putting your bread into would be exempt from the ordinance, right? Because the bags that are directly carrying food are not impacted by this ordinance. I'll just open up there with that. I certainly want to hear from my colleagues. This is an ordinance that makes sense for our community. I'm open to some revisions. I think we should keep the tax at 15 cents. That allows us to pay for the education. The business districts are asking us to move down to 10 cents. If we move down to 10 cents, that takes out the funding for education and to support, our neighbors and lower income neighbors who need more education around this and more resources. So that 5 cents allows us to pay for that. I'll hold there, and I'd love to hear from my colleagues, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any other comments, questions for staff?
I just wanted to get input from staff, if anybody would like to come up and speak about their perspective.
And Councilmember Harris, would you like Kara to respond to some of the concerns we heard, or just give a kind of summary?
So we've hired her to do this type of job, and I'd like her input from an expert position.
Sure.
So I think a summary of the...
Sure. So I'm Kara Pratt. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator. I'll also call on Brian Zimmerman, Solid Waste Coordinator, in a few moments. I just wanted to give a brief history of how we've gotten to this point. So back in November of 2021, Councilmember Reed submitted a referral specifically to talk about addressing the circumvention of our existing plastic bag ban that's in effect, and then simultaneously interim city manager at the time, Kelly Gandersky, also prioritized this project. And so I did want to provide some context as to why, for example, boxes from online retailers were not included. It's because we're responding directly to a referral and direction from our bosses at the time. And I certainly would be eager, and Brian and I could definitely research retail establishment or online retail establishment boxes as well in the future. But that's just some information as to why that wasn't included in this ordinance. We definitely hear that feedback, and we would like to work on that issue as well. In terms of the history legislatively of this issue, back in 2014, there was a ban on thin film single-use plastic bags for only certain big box retailers, which has been circumvented by offering thicker film plastic bags that still are used as if they're single-use bags, despite the argument that they're reusable. So that was kind of the original issue that we're trying to solve. In terms of our own boards, commissions, and committees that we've discussed this at the Environment Board from May 2022 and at nearly every meeting since then, every month. We've discussed this at the Economic Development Committee meeting also back in May. And we had an explicit meeting at the Zero Waste Subcommittee of the Environment Board specifically and only about this topic to really give a sort of a deep dive on the research around single-use bags. We also worked with the Economic Development Department and with the business districts in order to have a form for feedback and to have a specific meeting where we talked through all of the different concerns that businesses had. Council members Burns and Reed were present at that meeting, and how I've phrased this to others as we think through all the challenges around this. The environmental community has strong opinions about this, and the business community has strong opinions about this. Brian and I have provided our feedback and research based on our expertise, of course, as the Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator, as the Solid Waste Coordinator, and there are just differing opinions on how to approach this. So I wouldn't say that I'm an unbiased person in this matter, but I will call on Brian to provide some solid waste specific feedback as well.
Thank you, Committee Chair Burns, members of the committee. I'm Brian Zimmerman. I'm the Solid Waste Coordinator under the Public Works Agency. Some feedback, I mentioned, Councilmember Harris mentioned, we do have one comment about plastic bag collection. There are numerous municipal facilities that do collect, and Public Works Department actually is the one managing the labor and equipment costs that come with sorting through those plastic bags and making sure they're getting recycled with Jewel Osco as the partner group. So when Councilmember Reed talks about externalities and costs on the city, that is one due that is in effect that we have to spend hundreds of labor hours every year, every 6 months to sort through all those plastic bags to make sure they're in the right places. The other one is one that Councilmember Reed mentioned was contamination in recycling carts. Plastic bags and plastic film are undoubtedly the highest level of contaminant contributors in recycling carts. They clog up machines, increase processing costs for material recovery facilities to operate, can be a safety concern in those facilities as well, as they wrap around machines that require men and women to get into those machines and risk their lives to potentially get that material untwined. From my perspective, I do think we need to start shifting away from disposable single-use items, and that includes paper bags. We need to be looking for more durable goods and outlets that reduce our contributions to landfills, because even compostable items going to landfills are not a great thing. They still contribute to greenhouse gas emissions and anaerobic environments, which landfills are. We need to find better processes as best we can, but definitely keep in mind with the ease of which to implement within these smaller business communities is definitely paramount as well. So I don't know if there's any specific waste-related questions. I try to give a brief overview of a lot of different things that plastic bags contribute to. I definitely echo the sentiment that a lot of the research that Councilmember Reed echoed is consistent with a lot of other places that we looked, that a fee structure and behavioral economics provides disincentivized consumers from using or accepting a bag in those environments. And there's been little evidence that incentives or any other kind would have the same effect.
Councilmember Hennicottis.
I just have a couple of questions. So I guess the first one is, what would it look like to just have a straight single-use bag ban, and how would the city go about enforcement of that?
It would probably be very similar to how it is structured now, which would be a complaint-based enforcement process, even probably with a fee. There would be a complaint-based enforcement process to a degree that we would have to be looking at reports or as complaints come in through 311 or potentially spot check audits to see if people are doing and following through on that. We just don't have the staff to be the police and standing in front of a checkout line or something like that to make sure that the proper bags are used in these environments. That's just kind of a reality, and I think that would be consistent with almost any other community, that it's all complaint-based.
Okay, and so based on, I guess, your expert opinion, any municipalities that have just done a straight ban, what's the comparison of like waste reduction with a straight ban versus?
There probably is no waste reduction that happens. I think his name was Simone mentioned anecdotally that it would just shift the bucket into being paper, and paper has its own undue burden on the environment, from water to wood and pulp and paper products. That we would just be increasing our use of that material, which is not ideal.
And are there municipalities that have banned the single-use paper?
I have not seen a single community that has banned paper use either. That's why I think they usually, like Fort Collins or Boulder, Colorado, or municipalities out in California, they implement or institute a fee on the paper bags to provide an outlet for something if people absolutely need it, but try to reduce the usage of that as much as feasibly possible.
Okay, thank you. And I also want to mention, I'm glad to hear that you folks are interested in pursuing the cardboard box and Amazon recycling and dilemma. When this item came up, I was trying to do my own research to see if there were any municipalities that did kind of similar work, and I'm glad that you folks are ready to tackle that going forward. I think there's some momentum there.
We're definitely eager and interested in terms of utility or futility in terms of that regard. We'll definitely have to see. I don't know of many communities that have had success trying to stand up, especially one that's only 7.5 square miles wide. It's better if you have bigger range or a bigger pull. I would echo, but definitely worth engaging and inquiring about, because I know there's other communities that are probably doing the same.
Great, thank you.
Councilman Ravel, before we go back to Councilman Reed, do you have any questions for staff?
Not for staff necessarily, but just comments for the committee.
Do you want to make them now, or do you want to hold off?
Well, are we ready to discuss the proposed ordinance then? Or do I don't want to cut off the questions to staff if other.
We'll go to Councilman Reed, and then we'll go back to you for comments.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So, again, the reason, just to make it clear again, why we would tax paper bags, as Mr. Zimmerman said, we understand that paper bags actually, depending on how thin the plastic is, the paper bags are actually worse for the environment, or they take more, they're compostable, which is a good thing, right? And so that is good, but as far as the energy usage, they consume more energy to create a paper bag than it does to create, if we're talking about like a 0.5 or a 1 mil plastic bag, a paper bag takes more energy there. And so that's why, again, we want to reduce even paper bags. I mean, it's better for a paper bag to be blown around in the streets than it is for a plastic bag, because if it's in a non-anaerobic environment, it will compost. So that is a positive. As for, I think one of the big sticking points here is for Amazon and for the larger delivery services. One, they tend to use cardboard for delivery. Yes, they have maybe the bubble wrap inside. But the real issue is we don't have an Amazon warehouse here in Evanston. And so we can't, it's going to, and I also support this. When we've had the meeting with the business community, Councilmember Burns and I back in August or September, and businesses raised the Amazon issue, I was right there with them. But it's hard for us as a municipality to enforce something against someone who is just delivering here and not the point of sale taking place here. and so we have less control over that. And trust me, I'm happy to level the playing field for our small businesses however possible, and I've got ordinances that seek to do that in a separate way. So, we can address the Amazon issue at some point down the road as staff does more research and our law department looks into ways that we can get creative around finding a legal mechanism to enforce this against them. And then, a lot of folks are saying they're fine with just the ban, again, as Mr. Zimmerman and Cara said, and Ms. Pratt said, when you combine the tax with the ban, that is the most effective regime that you can have to reduce usage of these materials in your community. Thank you.
Councilmember Ravel.
Well, I guess I would like to have us talk a little bit about the exemptions that are listed in the proposed ordinance, because I guess I would like to add some more different other exemptions. For example, so that individuals who are using the SNAP program, that they would be exempt from the tax. And I'd like us to talk about restaurants being exempt from the tax. And then I think we've heard a lot tonight, in particular from our very small retailers and their use of what they call gift bags, which are quite different from the big bags, big paper bags that we all see at Whole Foods, for example. So those are some things that I would like us to add to the ordinance. So I'll start. Just maybe we could talk about that for a few minutes.
Either Brian or Kira, can you talk about the gift bags?
I don't think we spent too much, and Kara, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we spent too much time discussing specifically gift bags. I think looking at point of sale optional bagging was the primary focus, which gift bags would fall under. If there is the need to discuss the utility of them and the offering that they provide as a service from small brick and mortar stores, I think both of us would be open to further having that discussion on the utility of it, because they are smaller bags. They tend to be performative. They are usually made of paper. I have yet to really see a plastic gift bag. So I think that discussion is warranted.
And Councilman Ravel, your hope is that we would exempt the gift bags?
Right, gift bags, and understand that those would be, yes, made of paper or compostable materials, yeah.
Kira, do you have anything else to add in terms of your position? Okay.
I will just say we probably will need to be and work with legal to come up with a definitive definition of what a gift bag would constitute as, because with all of this, we're learning that definitions needs to be very specific, because we ran into this issue back in 2015, 2014 with the first time around, and we'll probably have to do that again in order to not have everyone just claim that they have gift bags. So we'll have to probably figure that out and work with the business community to come up with a definition that seems to fit best, if that's the direction we want to go.
We're going to quickly go back to Councilman Reed. I'm sure he wants to make some comments about the SNAP recipients, as well as other comments. So if we can be brief, because I really would like to get to a motion. If a motion is going to be on the floor, get to a motion in a second so we can vote and get the other items on the agenda. But Councilman Reed.
Yes. So with, I'll start with gift bags. So with gift bags, I mean, I am, they're bags. Let's just be real. And, if it's a gift bag, 15 cent, 10 cent, whatever it is for a gift bag, if that's, I would love someone to show research that, that these taxes are causing people to leave. I mean, I hear people anecdotally saying that, but these have been in place for many years across both our country and across the world. And so, I mean, if you want a gift bag, then, you know, you pay for it. And a small charge for a gift bag doesn't seem outrageous to me. And a lot of these gift bags aren't just paper. They've got like a coating on the outside oftentimes, and or some of them do. Some of them are just paper, but some of them, I think one that I saw earlier was a bit fancier than that and had kind of some kind of almost like an enamel-like coating on the outside of it. So I wouldn't be super enthusiastic about the gift bags. Gift bag exemption for SNAP. Again, we're moving toward an actual ban in 2024, and there seems to be at least consensus around the ban. I don't want SNAP recipients not prepared for the ban. Again, we know that these taxes, the research is clear. It shows that the taxes help nudge people and remind them to use their bags. And if we have a scenario where we have, you know, SNAP recipients exempted from the tax for a year, and then all of a sudden bags are banned, they will not have that, you know, that muscle memory built up to remember to keep, you know, disposable or reusable bags in their car or carry it around with them. And so I don't want to disadvantage those folks from having that same nudge that everybody else is having. So I'd really like to keep SNAP recipients in here, again, so we can do what is equitable and have them prepared for the actual ban. And then lastly, restaurants. I'm hearing a lot of restaurants. Many of the letters that I've received from restaurants indicate that the restaurants are fine with the ban. They're not fine with the tax, is the letters that I'm receiving. And, you know, there's nothing stopping a restaurant from not charging the tax and not using plastic bags. You can stop using plastic bags today, tomorrow, a year ago, and you will not have to take on any of the extra work of you know, calculating the bag tax and remitting it to the city. And also note that in this proposal, part of the fee goes back to the retailer to help cover those administrative costs. So, you know, that's built into this as well. So I'd like to keep SNAP in. You know, again, we need those folks to have the same nudge as everyone else to be prepared for the eventual ban. Gift bags, you know, maybe more open to that, but we need, again, bags are bags. We need to get them out of our community. We need to nudge people to use these, more, again, reusable bags. And if you want a gift bag, just pay for it. And then restaurants, as I said. So that's where we're in now.
Has there been any more?
Can I
Go
just
ahead.
clarify
Yeah.
one thing? Just Councilmember Reed, just in the proposal, just to lay it out clear, there's a tax for both plastic and paper at the very start, and that will continue until the ban, and then the paper will, I just want to make sure it's clear for anyone that's listening that that was the distinction and didn't get muddled for that understanding. So tax will carry through. There's no just plastic tax from the start. It's all encompassed into that. Okay.
One other thing to clarify, the way that this ordinance is currently drafted, businesses cannot just absorb the tax and not pass it on to the consumer. The way that it's written is it's passed on to the consumer, just as a heads up in case anyone wants to make amendments to that.
And then, Kara, I know that also what came up before is whether or not SNAP recipients will be able to, whether or not the tax will be an eligible expense as part of the benefit. Any news on that? I mean, I would think it would be assessed in the way any other tax would, but yeah, there remaining concerns about that?
Yes. So I explained to the Economic Development Committee, as our Corporation Counsel explained to me, that the way that logistically a SNAP recipient would pay for groceries, for example, they would use a link card, and anything that's not eligible to be used with that link card would have to be out of pocket. And the federal government cannot cover local tax beyond the sales tax. So you could not use your link card to cover the cost of the bags. You would have to go out of pocket to pay for the bags if you didn't bring your own.
Okay, if we have any questions, we typically don't take comments, public comments past the public comment period.
Can I just respond to the SNAP thing real quick?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If we're going to take one more response to that, and then I'm going to ask Councilmember Bevell to make a motion if she's ready.
Yeah, I'll just say with the SNAP recipients, SNAP doesn't cover everything now. I mean, if you need to go and get paper towels, or you need to buy trash bags, or you need to, whatever you need to buy, you have to come out of pocket for those items. I wish SNAP was more encompassing and could allow folks to get other, household needs as well, but that's just not the program as it is set up today. Again, we need to have folks have the nudge, and then we also want those communities, because we know our city and many other places are economically segregated. I don't want to see a bunch of trash bags in the 8th Ward or in the 5th Ward or anywhere in the city, because, there's a higher likelihood that SNAP recipients live in those areas, and we want to make our entire community cleaner. We want to nudge everyone in the same way. We want to make sure everyone has those same triggers to change their behavior. Again, a SNAP recipient wouldn't have to come out of pocket if they remembered to bring a bag, which part of this, we've spoken with CGE, Citizens Green of Evanston. There will be funding through the education and plenty of other communities when they've implemented this. A lot of particularly bigger stores give out branded bags for free initially. And so there'll be plenty of opportunities for lower income folks to have access to the reusable bags that they need, and they can easily avoid the tax just like anyone else. Thank you.
Councilman Ravel, would you like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that I hear my colleague, Councilmember Reed, will vote no on, but I will move to amend the ordinance to, I probably ought to do one at a time. I don't know. I mean,
if you could do it one at a time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll start with asking that we amend the ordinance to exempt SNAP recipients.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, that's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Reed.
I hear the good intentions, and I know likely some of my colleagues are convinced by those good intentions. We will be doing more harm than good to SNAP recipients if we exempt them from this tax. And so I just really encourage folks, we can get behind some of the other stuff maybe, but exempting them I think will do more harm than good. If we were like Chicago or some of the other communities that are just doing the tax potentially as a revenue generator, this tax is actually meant to do what the tax is meant to do, which is change behavior. It's not a revenue grab. The only point of the revenue is to be able to deal with the solid waste, to deal with the education, to make sure the restaurants get some of that money back, and to have some funding for enforcement. This tax is not a revenue generator for the city, and so we need to have this be an actual nudge to change behavior. So I urge a no vote on this amendment.
All right, any other discussion by the committee? Seeing none, we're going to do a roll call on this, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris? Aye. Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
No.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. I will entertain additional amendments. Councilmember Ravel, if you're ready.
Sure. So I move that we exempt restaurants from this ordinance.
Is there a second? All right, seeing no.
Sounding quiet, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
seeing no second. Any others? Any other motions, Councilman Ravel?
Yeah, I'd like to move to amend the ordinance to exempt paper and compostable gift bags.
Is there a second? Okay, so been properly moved and seconded, and we'll start the discussion with Councilmember Reed.
Yes. Again, I would. How about gift bags for I'd be more okay with as opposed to the gift bag. And I know Councilmember Ravel wants to exempt restaurants, and we want to help small businesses. Maybe as a negotiation, I'd be willing to, or I'd be happy to support. And I think this will get to some of the businesses that give gift bags, that if the business has fewer than 5 employees or some number, that they are, if that's, I'm getting weird faces. So what's the number? We're talking 5? I don't know about square feet. 25 employees is a good, that's a good number.
Count,
Yeah.
Councilman Reed.
Councilmember Reed, just as a suggestion, maybe consider revenue.
The more money we earn, the more employees we have, the more money we pay you guys.
Yeah.
Councilman Reed, if you can continue.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not in support of the gift bag. I trust our legal department to be able to find a definition for this. Okay, and you know, maybe revenue is that target. You know, maybe the number of employees.
Let's go to Councilmember Hedekadis.
Yeah, I think in thinking about this, you know, we don't want to burden small businesses. Like personally, like Whole Foods, like that's really, you know, the type of business that is pretty, you know, giving out a lot of bags. I'm not sure if there's a mechanism around like a small business exemption, but I don't know if we can do that. I don't think we can do that as a case-by-case basis, but I don't know if this discussion's happened in the economic development meeting. It has twice, so I have not seen all those meetings. So maybe someone can speak around what was discussed at economic development as far as small business gift bag.
Gift bags and did not.
Real quick, Councilman, I want to make sure we hone in on your specific question about it.
Like, I'm fine with exempting some businesses. It's just, I don't think it makes operational sense to be on a one-by-one basis. So how do you, like Brian said.
Staff, can somebody speak
like,
to how that could work operationally?
Because I think definitions around what is a gift bag and, you know, how you make that decision, I think that's important. So if you can.
If we're speaking specifically to gift bags, it would be probably the definition built around the bag itself. If you're speaking to business function and operation, you are probably, I would probably guess square footage is what we did similar, because I don't really understand how we will have the information in tow to be able to make the one by one, like, yes, you know, you're not included kind of thing, whereas the square footage is probably the only thing I can wrap my head around at the moment. We'd probably have to do more digging and work with council.
Councilmember Hedekadis, any other questions? Okay. I want to make a comment on this. I'm certainly not prepared to exempt it today. It's probably mainly because I don't feel comfortable exempting it beyond the ban. I'd be happy to entertain exempting it for the period before the ban. But again, I am very clear on this, is that this city, as much as it may seem, does not bring enough to take, certainly not to meet our current climate action and resiliency goals, which admittedly are relatively new. But the other liabilities that Councilman Reed mentioned earlier, we don't talk about it enough, but it's real, and we have to find revenue in order to address it and to encourage the behavior that we want to see. So I just need more time. I might be able to support it at council once this moves forward, but not at this point. Any other comments or questions about this before we call the roll call?
Yeah.
Councilmember Ravel.
Right. Well, I am concerned about sort of the whole timing of all of this, because our business community is just now really beginning to recover from the pandemic. And so, I mean, I'd be happy to just postpone the whole thing for a while, but that's why I'm really looking for ways to address the concerns that we've heard tonight from our smaller businesses. And I'm particularly sensitive to this because, you know, the Central Street businesses are just a hop, skip, and a jump from Wilmette. And truly, there are a lot of people residents of the 7th Ward who let me know that they shop in Wilmette because parking is free. And I don't want to give them another excuse to add to their trips to Wilmette. So I'd be interested in seeing what our Thrive report is going to say about what we can do to support our business community. So the whole timing of this is got me concerned for starters. So anyway, all of that's going into why I'm sensitive to the whole idea of trying to come up with an exemption for gift bags.
Councilmember Harris.
I heard staff mention that we didn't look at as a council that it'd be absorbed by the businesses. So I was interested in that statement that you made, Cara.
As originally proposed by staff, this ordinance was meant to change consumers' behavior. And so originally, as proposed by staff, restaurants were exempted due to the inability, as far as staff could tell, from restaurants to be able to avoid providing a bag. And really, the nudge was so that consumers would opt out of getting a bag. And so that's sort of the behavior change that was the origin of all the research that we did. And of course, over time, after several committees, this has changed. But that was why it was originally meant to be a behavior change for consumers. If we look out on a macro scale, certainly legislation like this is much more effective at the state and federal level, and also even larger communities where you can get at the manufacturer of the bag. And that's just not the case for Evanston. That's not the type of legislation that we can enact.
All right, we're going to do one more comment or question from Councilman Reed, and then we're going to call the question on this.
Yeah. Alderman Ravel and all the folks who are saying, I go to Wilmette to shop because I got to pay 50 cents for parking or I got to pay this for parking, understand you're paying for it one way or another. This is something we should advertise to make people proud of Evanston, make people want to come shop here because Evanston is a city that does the bold things to make our community cleaner, to stand up for the environment. And if you go spend your, hold on, I am talking, sir. Great. If you're going to Wilmette or other communities, if you're saying someone that I actively choose to shop somewhere else because I have to pay a bit for parking, know that you're going to pay for it in property taxes, or know that you're going to pay for it in having crumbling roads and bridges and not enough money to support the very important things that we have to do. You're paying for it one way or another. Go live in Wilmette if you don't want to pay the taxes, but don't try to use this as a way to shirk your responsibility as a citizen of Evanston. We have to make sure that we are funding the necessary services of the city so we have the resources to make sure that we're doing the important stuff, like making sure that we can take care of the folks who are least proximate to power, that have the least access to resources. And you should be proud every time you walk into a store and pay 15 cents. For your bag, or you pay every time you pay a parking fee. Know that you are doing your job as a citizen of this city and you are participating in the full life of Evanston and making our community more vibrant.
Councilmember Harris.
I know we're trying to call the question, but I just want to be careful, and I don't think my council member meant this. Don't live in Wilmette. We like you here. We want to keep the businesses here. But I do want to be careful that we don't tax us to death on everything, on parking, on everything. So if we're going to hit people, then we hit them. And we're honest with, your taxes are going up and this is what it is. But we nickel and dime people. I'm one of those people. We're all one of those people. We have to be careful. I don't want sticker shock. I want to know what it is and I want to be able to pay it. So we just want to be careful because then we end up disenfranchising the people we're trying to make it right for because they're part of that taxing body too. So the middle class ends up, we're going to lose our middle class because we're taxing to death and the rich can afford everything and the poor can't afford anything. The middle end up suffering that crunch. So we just want to be careful. We want to figure this out collectively. We don't want anybody to leave, businesses or people, but there will be adjustments that we all have to make. Thank you.
All right, if we can call the question. And Councilman Reed, Ravel, if you want to restate the motion, just because we have
this was to add an exemption for small paper or compostable gift bags.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved.
Councilmember
Okay.
Well, to be clear, are we using the same definition, the 40% recyclable?
I don't
Councilmember Ravel, is that your intention?
We could. I haven't thought about that detail.
I thought staff said they had to investigate that that hadn't been part of
Well,
your
but
discussion.
we have to investigate the definition of gift ban,
Right.
but a clear or a gift bag, I'm sorry. But as far as what the gift bag can be, it can't be a plastic gift bag, obviously.
Paper.
Right.
But,
It was
but,
paper.
you know, but 40% compostable material. I just want to make sure that that's the intention. Councilmember Ravel.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I thought, let's let the city weigh in on that, please, or
Right,
staff.
Yeah. I hate to make these decisions right, in the spur of the moment here.
It would likely have to be consistent with the 40% post-consumer recyclable material, just for helping support recycling industries, making sure we have end uses for our recycled product. If we're going to put more paper into the recycling stream, that we have end uses for that stuff would be important. But it would probably be ease of being consistent by having all paper bags, even gift bags, have that post-consumer requirement as well, or meeting the definition of compostable. That's what I would recommend. I think Kara would probably agree. Yeah.
What does your bag say? 100%. Recycle. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wait, does it say 100% recyclable or recycled? Well, that's perfect. That'd fit the criteria. If it just said 100% recyclable, that's a different definition, just to be clear. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, let's let the experts see. Okay. So is this on the floor for a vote?
Yeah, we're
Second?
calling the it's already been
So a
properly
second.
moved and seconded. We're calling we're doing a roll call now. Yep.
You can do a voice vote.
I will roll call.
Councilmember Harris? Aye. Councilmember Herrick Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
No.
Councilmember Reed?
No.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Okay, carries with 3-2. And I think that is all the amendments. And so now we will. You got another one?
Yes, I'd just like to have us look closely at the definition in the ordinance for carry-out single-use bags, because it makes it sound like it can only be bags that are going to have fruit or vegetables in them. But if you're getting a loaf of bread or some kind of other food product, I think we just need to make that definition broader.
Just real quick. I want to, if you want to respond to that first, and then we'll go to.
We can refine that definition so that it's clear that it's a hygienic bag that's touching any food item that would be exempt.
Okay.
Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, for Hune, who now has left, that their bags would be exempted. I do want to, I will say here's one concern, that we can look at this at council, as this will take 2 readings at council as well. I'm hoping that between now and, when this appears on the council agenda, that, maybe, Cara and Brian or the Economic Development Department and I and whoever else is interested can, Councilmember Burns and I have some contacts at DoorDash and other third-party delivery services. If third-party delivery services cannot, and I think they can, implement a per bag tax, what some communities have done is they charge a flat, $1, $1.50, whatever it is, for takeout for this tax, and so it's just $1, $1.50, and however many bags you use are covered by that, and then that's the way that they solve for the takeout issue. Or I'm sorry, not takeout, for the delivery issue.
Councilmember Ravel, I know you were seeking some clarification. Any further motions you would like to make?
Not tonight, no.
Okay. All right, so we have all our amendments, and then now item HS, was that one under items for consideration? Yeah, item HS1 under items for consideration as amended. We can call the question on that.
Councilmember, excuse me, Harris? Councilmember Herrick Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel?
No.
As
All right.
amended?
Yes, you voted no. All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to.
I
Well,
move
keep using
item.
it. Yeah, if you can.
Yep. I move item HS2, ordinance 124-022, amending the city code, creating Title 12, Consumer Protections, Chapter 1, cashless establishments prohibited.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilmember Reed.
I will keep this brief unless there are questions, but the ACLU has done research on this. There are many communities across the country who also have cashless bans. We know that we have some national studies have shown that there are about 8 million Americans who are unbanked, and that represents about 6.5% of any community is unbanked. And so, this makes sure it protects folks who are undocumented, folks who are low income, folks who are, homeless. And so this makes sure that those folks still have access to the resources that they need. The ACLU has done studies, or written about the, privacy concerns and all kinds of other things. You think about, someone who is even in a, domestic and in an abusive relationship, and, maybe a partner is controlling the cards, and cash is a way to make purchases anonymously. And so there's a whole host of, reasons for this. Valid as, and again, Hune has left, but she raised some of the, the opposition's concerns to these cashless bans. But I think all of those are things that we can overcome. And again, many other communities have implemented this. Whether you have cash in your business or not, I have some businesses on Howard Street, Palm House, and they were broken into, a few weeks ago, and no one took cash, but they took materials from the place. They took several $1,000s worth of alcohol. So, just being a cashless business does not, necessarily deter someone from breaking in overnight.
I thank you, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I'm fully in support of this. I do believe this is discriminatory in practice because it does disenfranchise those who do not have access, ability, or capability of holding bank accounts, Apple Pay, and the other areas. So I am fully in support of this.
All right, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of this item indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. All right. Next up, can we get a motion for the next item?
Forrest. Oh, I'm sorry, the police complaint. Sorry, Chief, or Chief Stewart's not here, but Mr. Glue. I'll move review of Commander Glue. Okay, Commander Glue. I'll move item for communication HS2, review of Evanston police complaints and comments report.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. We'll start off with Commander Glue.
All right. Committee chairman, members of the committee, I'm going to be going over 2 complaints tonight. The first one is CR 21-04. And briefly, the facts for this. On September 17th of 2021, the accused officers met with a tenant and landlord about a tenant-landlord dispute. As they mediated this and had contact with both the landlord and the tenant, the complainant, who was a landlord, left their contact with the police officers, accused officers, feeling that they were rough, rude, and that they improperly made a threat to arrest the landlord for interfering with the tenant. This investigation was done by OPS. The investigation was turned over up the chain of command, and through the patrol sergeant, the commander and the deputy chief, there were sustained rule violations with discipline and training recommendations. This complaint then went to CPRC, who reviewed the investigation, determined to be complete and fair, and moved it forward for the chief's review and the review of HSC by a vote of 5-0. Ultimately, the chief made the recommendation or the findings. The disposition was for Officer 1, oral reprimand and applicable training, reference de-escalation and smarter policing for a changing time. Accused Officer 2 was given a written reprimand for the rule violations, applicable training on laws of arrest, search, and seizure, and that would have been the officer who made the threat to arrest. So that is the summary, and with that, are there any additional questions I can answer about CR 21-04? No?
Saying none, yeah.
All right. We'll move on to DI 2202. The summary is as follows. The officers responded to a complaint or an incident where an individual stole money from a tip jar in the 800 block of Dodge. That suspect was stopped and arrested pursuant to probable cause in the 1200 block of Main Street. While the officers were searching the individual, they took some of the investigation and, let me back up, the arrestee later came in and made a complaint that some of his items were missing, the most significant one being his cell phone. An investigation was initiated. A review of the incident revealed that when the officers searched the victim, or not the victim, but the complainant during the arrest, they placed several of his items, one being his cell phone, on top of the squad car. The investigation then showed, pursuant to the body-worn camera in the vehicle, that cell phone fell off the top of the squad car in transport back to the station. So the officer who was responsible for that cell phone left on top of the squad car, and it has been lost. So this was reviewed, and there were several sustained rule violations and recommendations. It was reviewed by CPRC, who determined that it was a fair and complete investigation and moved it forward 5-0. So the ultimate disposition was the chief sustained the rule violations with the recommendations that Officer 1, who was responsible for the cell phone, receive a written reprimand for losing the property and not taking proper control of it. Also, shift level training, the initial investigation, I wouldn't say hindered is a strong word, but got going a day or two late because the officer forgot to dock his body-worn camera. That is where the body-worn camera is put on a charger, and the information, the video is uploaded. If we would have had that, if it would have been docked, we would have seen it earlier in the investigation. We would have figured out what happened a day or two earlier. Officer 2 in this received a written reprimand because the investigation revealed that they failed to activate their body-worn camera pursuant to policy. So that is the summary of DI 22-02. Can I answer any questions about this one?
Quick question. So you said they forgot to upload it or they forgot to activate it? Because I think that's a difference.
So we have one. So the one officer who received the written reprimand for losing the prisoner's property, he forgot to dock his camera at the end of the shift, which is required per policy. Now, we did not lose any video, but the video was not available in a timely fashion. So they were given a shift level, I believe, shift level counseling. Please, emphasizing the importance of docking that camera so the footage is available in a timely fashion. The second officer received a written reprimand for a more serious policy violation, which was neglecting to turn on his body-worn camera at all. So there was no body-worn camera footage, docked or not, from that camera.
Councilmember Hedicatis.
Yeah, in the report, it mentioned that when the lights, there's something about the lights turned on in the car, there was the assumption that the body-worn camera would turn on. Was there a equipment malfunction, or can you just talk about that?
So there are several things that should trigger a body-worn camera if the vehicle's emergency lights go into a certain position. I believe it's position 3. more than just the rear lights, cautioning traffic behind the squad car, tasers being turned on. This should activate the body-worn camera, but it is still upon the officer, even if those emergency lights were turned on to the point where it should have activated the camera, it's still on the officer to make sure that that camera is activated.
And just so we know, how does an officer know that his camera is turned on? Is there like a light?
Yeah, there are red lights on the camera to let it know. It blinks and periodically beeps. It gives an alert to everybody there that the camera is on. The officer has to, and to manually start it, they have to tap the center button twice to start it. And then to stop it recording, you have to push down the button and hold it for several seconds, and then it will beep at you and let you know it's been turned off. It also will beep at you when it's been activated. So,
Good. Thanks for that information.
no problem.
Okay, we're good.
All right, thank you very much.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor of placing the review of Evanston police complaints and comments report on file indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. And, all right, seeing no more matters before us, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.